Hey Internet, Gurney here, and we're here with an unboxing. I'm excited about this one. This was announced not too long ago. I placed the pre-order pretty quickly after hearing about it. That is the Canon R6 V. I want to talk about why we made the decision to add this to our lineup of tools that we offer, and what swayed me to make this decision. We've actually gone and made some pretty drastic changes, and so we'll talk about that as we open this up. So one of the things that we've done is we've actually decided to sell off our A7S III for this camera, and we're potentially going to be making even more drastic changes from that. But let me talk about kind of why that decision was made. So we decided to pull that trigger because of all the things that this camera has to offer on paper, and for the type of shooting that we're doing at Gurney Media. We do a lot of sports footage. We do a lot of documentary style work, and this particular camera checked all the boxes of the things that we need in our tool set. Okay, all the type of shooting that we're doing, this camera achieves all of those things. At least that's the hope. That's what it looks like on paper. Obviously, I'm excited to get my hands on it and put it through its paces and really see if this fits in our tool set. I have been in the industry for 17 years. I've used everything from an FX30, FX3. My very first wedding was shot on a P2. I've shot on Red. And actually my first camera that I bought personally was a Canon T3i. So I've got a lot of experience with different tools, and I know that what's important to me is making sure that I have the right tool in my tool set for the jobs that we are doing. And so that's why we pulled the trigger. It's been a really, really long time since I've used a Canon. I actually was strictly Sony there for a while. When I bought the Red, the Red uses an RF mount, so Canon uses an RF mount. I never have had any RF glass. I've already bought Canon EF glass and use an adapter to adapt it to the Red. Funny thing is I had all Sony glass before that. I sold all my Sony glass and bought all Canon glass and was adapting the Canon glass to the Sony, was adapting the Canon glass to the Red. And so when this camera was announced and there wasn't any current solutions or upgrades from Sony, it kind of made sense to me to pull the trigger and get the Canon R6 V. So let's get into it here and check out what we got. So this is exciting. Haven't done a Canon unboxing in really, really long time. Looks like we've got the battery here. Yep, so there is the LP E6P. That is going to, again, using that, hopefully that allows us to adapt the EF mount lenses to the R6V and still keep all the same functionality. I've heard that older versions of Canon batteries are still usable in the R6V, but you lose a lot of functionality and things like that. And the zoom power lens, you lose the zoom function. So here's our materials. Put that over here. Looks like here we have kind of odd shapes, like circular. Oh, and this is a Canon lens bag to keep the lens safe. I am actually extremely excited about the lens that comes in this kit, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But let's keep going. So a little bit deeper, we have here a charger. So this will be the LP battery charger. Nice thing about these is they don't have any separate cables that plug into it to extend off of the charging brick. It's all in one unit. I really like that. I've missed that. It's really annoying with Sony that they come with an extra plug that you got to plug into the brick and then move it over. So now we've got our strap, so that's good. And then let's go even deeper. So going a little bit deeper, this is where we get to the fun stuff. So here is the camera. Oh, I'm excited. I am excited about this form factor. Like I said, I've had an FX30, I've had an FX3. I've missed that body style. Having the A7S is great because you have the viewfinder for when you're doing photography, but you're only shooting at 12 megapixels. So I really love the form factor of the FX30 and the FX3. So, there it is. And man, it is a lot chunkier than I thought it would be. This is nice. It's really light too. Oh my gosh. I like the way that feels. That's a good grip. You've got a big wide grip. Sometimes with those other body styles like this, the grip is a little bit too shallow. That fits really nicely in my hands. I am excited about that. Let's put it aside for just a moment. I'll put it over here. Okay, and now here we have the other lens, the lens that I'm super excited about. This is the, of course, kit lens. Although for being a kit lens, this lens is amazing. I'm super excited about it. This is the 24-50 L series power zoom lens. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. That is such an interesting, let's double check there's nothing else in here and then get this out of the way. Okay, so that is such an interesting focal length, the 20-50. My personal favorite lens is the 24-70. That focal range is just so perfect because you can go, a little bit deeper with that 70 for when you're doing portraits. You got the wide with the 24 to really get a nice establishing shot and really get a lot of information in your image. So 24-70 has always been my favorite focal length. I am so interested to see if this sways me at all, if this replaces it a little bit. 20-50, that's such a fascinating focal range. And I have a few hunches as to why Canon made the decision to do that versus a 24-70. I think the 20-50 is probably going to make their IBIS look really strong. I think that's something that's funny about the Canon and community is there's a lot of complaints about the wobble effect you get with their IBIS, especially at the edges of the frame. And so I wonder if that was kind of in mind why they decided to go with that 20-50 focal range. This is super cool, super exciting. So here it is, R6 V, 20-50 power zoom. So again, let's analyze the grip here. We talked about the grip. It feels really nice. The weight of the camera, I mean, that is really light, much lighter than I expected. Build quality, of course, you've got Canons, plastic. They always do these plastic bodies, which, there's a lot of benefits to that. Obviously, the weight is a factor there. They're still very durable. They can take the rigorous day-to-day, use cases of being on set. But certainly you're not, it's not like an aluminum or any sort of alloy that way. Weather sealing, I do hear that that they have good weather sealing. I'm concerned about the fan ports. I'm super happy that they're here and that they have solved the issue with the R6 III having overheating problems. I'm glad that the fan has been included here because that means that we can have really long shooting times without the worries of any overheating. But I do wonder about weather sealing now with the fan ports being there included. There's no fan access or vents or anything from the top or from the sides except for this left side. So potentially that means that you can have a little bit of confidence in some different weather situations. Although I don't think personally I'll ever have this out exposed to the harsh elements if we're experiencing anything harsh. Let's see here. What else? Button layout. So this does have 7 customizable buttons, which is pretty insane. There's so many things that you can do with that. So many use cases and things will be nice about that. The dial here on top is really cool. You've got the 3 custom modes. I heard somebody talk to me, something really brilliant about that. I was kind of complaining the fact that the R6 V didn't come with shutter angle, that you're only limited to shutter speed. And I was complaining about that. I thought that was kind of silly, and I would love to see Canon bring shutter angle to the R6 V. That's definitely something that can be fixed with simply a firmware update. But they were telling me that something that they do is they actually assign to those custom modes or custom settings on the dial, they actually assign both a resolution and a frame rate and a shutter speed preset on those settings. And that, I actually didn't even consider doing that before. That's really brilliant. I think I'll probably do that with the C1, C2, C3 dial settings here. That just kind of solves the fact then you're not fumbling around when the menu system making those changes. You're not, having to switch very quickly to those shutter speeds and making all those adjustments to your settings, but you're able to flip of a dial, be able to make that change and be shooting really quickly. Of course, the resolution change, that probably isn't going to happen too much, but it's when you're jumping shutter speed that that's going to be really nice. Screen. So the screen is a little bit on the smaller side. I think it's only a 3.5 screen. And so it is a little bit smaller. I will probably personally be using a monitor more times than not. Yeah, I would have loved to see that a little bit bigger. Although I do hear that Canon has really good screens. Again, my experiences with the Red and with Sony, it's been a really long time since I've been on a Canon, so I'm interested to see how that goes and test that out. Okay, and of course, there's no viewfinder. Okay, so that's typical. If you're coming from an FX3, FX30, you're used to those other video cinema style bodies in a DSLR, then that's gonna be something you're used to, and most times you're gonna be using a monitor anyways. I don't think there's ever a time I'm shooting anything professional that I don't have a monitor anyways, and so having the viewfinder wasn't really a concern for me. And then when it comes to photo, I can do photo with this. You're certainly equipped with that, with a high megapixel sensor here, but I have a separate camera that I'm going to use for my photography most of the time anyways, so that wasn't necessarily a factor here. However, if you are a photographer, you might want to steer towards the R6 III instead. So ergonomics are really great. I'm happy about that. I'm excited to put it through its paces and really see what a long, all-day shoot feels like, and if I'm having any sort of hand fatigue or anything like that from holding it. Yeah, I mean, again, this is very comparable to other cinema cameras that you might be used to. So RF mount, that is Canon. See, I'm gonna do that because I come from Sony. RF mount, Canon's RF mount. We do need to talk about that because that was definitely a factor in my decision. Had I had a lot of Sony glass, I'm not sure I would have pulled the trigger on this, especially where now Sony's talking about the FX5, which they're going to be introducing here pretty quick, potentially next month. That may have kept me around, although there's still some differences here that I'm hearing. FX5 might be a 5K sensor, where this is a 7K sensor. But there's rumors there's ND filters involved, global shutter. That's something that I've been talking about for a really long time. There's a lot of back and forth with people. If you've used global shutter before, that's the future of cinema. And it sounds like the FX5 might have a global shutter. I would have loved to seen that in here with the R6 V. I don't know if Canon has any global shutter cameras. If they do, please let me know in the comments. But that is something that I'm looking forward to coming to these cameras is global shutter. Again, sorry, going back to, that was a little bit of a tangent. Going back to the RF mount, Canon's RF mount system is really interesting. They do have a lot of lens choices, and all of those choices are going to be really fantastic. The problem is that they are proprietary. They don't have any third-party support for RF mount, except for a few exceptions. I know that there's some Sigmas. I don't know if there's any Tamarons, but there is another Chinese manufacturer that has a few lenses, but that's about it. Canon's really kept the RF mount really tight, close to the chest, and there's some rumors that maybe they're going to be opening that up a little bit more. It sounds like Sigma's on the verge of having a contract with them where they can do a little bit more with that mount. But that is a factor if you're going to decide to get this camera or not. For me, where I had all Canon glass as of right now, it made sense. It was a choice that was a kind of a no-brainer. I had no problem letting my A7S go and switching to the R6 V because I already have all Canon glass already. And so that's definitely going to be a factor for you. It's going to heavily depend on what glass you have already. If you're already pretty well into the R ecosystem, great. It's going to be a good buy. If you're not, I mean, I've done that once already. When I originally switched from Sony over to the Red and I sold all my Sony glass and switched over, that's an expensive switch. You can kind of buffer that a little bit with the sale of your previous glass, but you're still spending a little bit more out of pocket making that switch over to an entirely different ecosystem. Now that I'm in it, I kind of feel like maybe it's an Apple situation where once you're in the ecosystem, hopefully I'm not stuck and I can still be flexible enough to make the change down the road. Sony might win me back with the FX5. We'll see. So let's talk about some of the big deciding factors for me on the boxes of this check that convinced me that this was the right buy. Autofocus. That is a kind of a game changer when you're a one-man crew. You got to have some really reliable autofocus. I've made the change to Red, and that was kind of a struggle a little bit for me to figure out. Okay, I'm a one-man crew. I care about fidelity and having a really good image to give to my clients, but I needed a solution for that, and that's actually where I turned to DJI's Focus Pro. It allowed me to use prime glass and even other glass that I could have some reliable autofocus. So that is a big factor for me when I'm choosing a camera, especially where I'm a one-man team. I want to have some really solid, reliable autofocus. Sony has kind of taken the cake there. Autofocus has kind of been their bread and butter, and they've got cameras that are reliable in that department. Everybody else is catching up though, especially as companies implement AI into the cameras. I don't know to what extent AI is implemented, but as they implement some of these machine learning to help inform their autofocus in their cameras, we're getting that, and I'm excited to see this on paper. This says that autofocus is great, and so that's my expectation. Face tracking, subject tracking, animal tracking, vehicle tracking, these are all things that this camera can do, and so that was a big deciding factor for me. Okay, resolution was another big decision factor. Okay, the FX3, you're stuck at 4K. Okay, I know it's a 6K sensor downsampled to 4K, but you're not able to do anything beyond 4K. When I made the switch to Red, I got 6K. I've used other Reds now that have 8K, and so having the higher resolution, it's given me a lot of flexibility in post to be able to crop in without losing any quality. That allows you to take your 20 to 50, and that now becomes able to reach all the way up to 135, maybe even 200, just from being able to crop in without losing any quality. And so that was a big factor for me. That was something that I know Sony's got a little bit of catching up to do now. Their cinema body of this size, they're maxed out at 4K. Maybe the FX5 is going to get 5K, but still having that higher resolution, once you use it, it's hard to go back down to 4K when you have so much flexibility that you've come to rely on with those higher resolutions. Okay, so that was a big deciding factor. And then just the body itself, everything it offers, all the customization, all the extra buttons. Yeah, these were all factors for me. And so I was super excited to let go of my other equipment and pick this one up. Low light performance. I know that was a concern in my mind coming from Sony, being so used to how good of low light performance you get with the FX3, especially with the A7S. I mean, that was the case all the way back to... That was the case. Sorry, that was really loud. That was the case all the way back to the A7S, original A7S, and I had that camera. I had the A7S II. I had the A7S III, and so having low light performance, yes, you're not using it every day, especially in studio situations like this where you have your lighting set up. Obviously, it's not a big deal, but when you were out doing run and gun shoots and you're creating content, especially at nighttime, out and about, you really come to enjoy the quality of stuff that you can get from low light performance in a good camera. Not having to rely on setting up external lights, but being able to take the natural light that was there, even just in moonlight. I've gotten some pretty incredible work with just a scene being lit by moonlight, and having that's able to open up to 1.1. And I've gotten some pretty incredible stuff with my A7S III on that. So low light performance was a factor, and it's something that I've actually heard these cameras do really well, and noise, how they handle noise, that they've really upped their game. I think we're entering a time when there's not going to be very many cameras that can't do that. Now, other thing with noise is I've actually come to appreciate noise a little bit, especially being on a red. You tend to look at noise as being a little bit more organic. And so my attitude on noise has actually changed quite a bit. I used to seek the absolute cleanest image, no noise whatsoever. And shooting on reds kind of changed my perspective on that a little bit. And I do actually appreciate sometimes a little bit of noise, just because it makes your image look a little bit more organic, okay? There's been a lot of people online kind of dissing the R6 V a little bit, just because it's not set up for a photo camera. It can do it, but if you're in that realm of needing to hybrid shoot photo and video, maybe you go with the R6 III. You know what? I'm in the realm of a viewfinder's not always necessary. If you can see the monitor, that's great. If you can put an external monitor on your camera, sure, it's extra weight, but you're going to be doing hybrid shooting anyway. You're already going to be doing some video. It's not a big deal it's actually really useful to be able to just quickly switch over to photo and snap that, and have a camera that can do both and do both quickly. Again, if you switch to the R6 III, I know that there are a lot of overheating issues there. And so yes, you get the viewfinder, the EVF, but you definitely have the risk of overheating, and you run into some other problems. I'm excited to use this as a photo camera when I don't have my other primary photo shooter with me. And I appreciate that it can do that. That was something that is actually a part of my checklist, is I don't want a camera, if I'm going to be buying this body size and style, and I want a kind of DSLR-esque type camera, even if it's a cinema camera, I do want it to be able to do photo, and I do want it to be able to take good photos that are high resolution. And so I was excited to have that. IBIS is here. I'm excited to test it. My attitude towards IBIS is that it's not to be relied upon anyways. It's there to kind of help in the few circumstances when you need it. Obviously, any camera where you're literally running around, and you should be on a gimbal, but you're not. I mean, obviously that footage, you're gonna get what you get, okay? And you can't expect anything otherwise. We're not here to pretend that IBIS is ever gonna be as good as a gimbal, okay? So I love that IBIS is included. I do have one little tiff with Canon on your IBIS, and I would say that when the lens allows for stabilization, I have heard that you cannot turn off IBIS on the camera and have it enabled on the lens. That it's both or nothing. Or sorry, you can do IBIS in body and turn it off on the lens, but you can't have IBIS only on the lens and not on the body. So I would make that change if you could, Canon. And I'm excited to test that and see how that works. Their color science. Shooting on red, I've really come to appreciate good skin tone color science and good color science across the whole image. Canon has always had a reputation for good skin tones, and they have a reputation of have some really beautiful images, even if you're not shooting in the flat color profiles like C-Log 2 or 3. But even straight out of camera, they've got a reputation to have a good color science. That was a must for me. Color science and color grading is something that I truly enjoy. So color grading is something that I truly enjoy, and that is a part of my checklist. I need to have a camera that has good color science. I've had some frustrations with Sony in the past. They have some issues with capturing purples. It's never super accurate. Their skin tones can kind of introduce a little bit of yellowish greenish look. And so you have to correct that. I take that back. I've gotten some really beautiful imagery off of my Sony, and you really learn as a Sony shooter how to correct that. But I'm excited. I truly am excited to get back to a Canon and test out their color science, because that's what they're known for. I mean, that's one of the things that's one of the reasons you buy a Canon, is because their color science is they've got a good reputation there. Size, love the form factor and size of this. You know, I don't always want to be carrying this huge rigged out red camera that, you know, takes, you know, by itself 10-15 minutes to rig up before you can shoot. I love the idea of just being able to pull this out of the bag, flip a switch, and then go, and still be able to get the quality of footage that I'm looking for and that my business is known for. And so form factor was definitely a factor in this. Okay, and so I'm pleased with the form factor and the size and everything. And then again, this just fits my business, especially when shooting behind the scenes type content. This is perfect for that. It's a good B camera to the Red. And I think their color science is going to play nicely between the Red and the Canon. You're going to get a very similar look between the two. I'm just overall extremely excited to start using this and see how it fits into the business. But those were kind of the factors for me for determining to buy this and get rid of the Sony. So anyway, that's for me. Coming up, you're gonna see some future videos specifically focused on the R6 V. We're gonna do some autofocus tests, low light tests. We'll do some real estate shoots, commercial wedding. We'll do some color grading and maybe look at our color grading workflow with this and how it's going to be different from Red, but kind of what that's going to look like. We'll even do a comparison between the Red and the Canon if you want. And then just, of course, a long-term view. I'm excited to put this through its paces and have this for the foreseeable future. And I will certainly update you, down the lane how this camera stacks up. There's some people that might say this might be the camera of the year. There's talks that, the Canon V1 might be the camera of the year. There's a lot of contenders there. I definitely think what's amazing about this camera is that you are getting so much for the price point, $2,500, and you were getting so much in a camera, especially if you're a first-time camera buyer, you're just getting into video. It's amazing the kind of quality and kind of content that you could create with this. This is an amazing first-time buyer camera. It's also a great camera for prosumers. And so I think Canon nailed it with the R6 V, and I'm excited to put it through its paces and see how it stacks up. Anyway, if you've got any other questions or ideas or things you want to know about the R6 V, definitely put that down in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed. There's going to be a lot more content coming from me here at Gurney Media, and I'm excited to be back in the game and to share the scenes with you. And we'll catch you later.